This episode is brought to you by Unstoppable. Discover the inspiring true story about Anthony Robles, who defied every expectation to become a national wrestling champion in Unstoppable, a new original movie from Amazon MGM Studios and director William Goldenberg, evoking the excitement and camaraderie of classic sports dramas and thrilling wrestling matches. Unstoppable features an all-star ensemble cast, including Jarrell Jerome, Jennifer Lopez, Don Cheadle, Michael Pena, and Bobby Cannavale. Watch Unstoppable now, exclusively on Amazon Prime Video.
Ampire. Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Best season ever, guys. Best season ever.
What is there to say? I mean,
I'm going to start with my old adage, actually. It's not who you play, it's when you play them. And all the Detroit people that I know who were very upset, but very gracious when they texted me, they stayed away from me all week because of, and I think I could tell by the tone of their texts, overconfidence.
Yep.
They were, and I said back to most of them, I said to them, I go, but you live here, because most of these people that were like Detroit fans, I'm like, but you live here, and you have to kind of know a little bit more than probably everybody else in your area about what's going on here, that I would think would be less of a surprise. But I think they just convinced themselves this is their year no matter what. And the reality was this. They weren't going to win with that defense. Like, they were going to lose to somebody. I actually think with the way Philadelphia has looked and how one-dimensional they've kind of become, and we'll talk about that a lot this week.
Sure.
Maybe they would have been able to, because they were at home, maybe they would have survived that one too had they won this one. But if they got Buffalo, who could have scored 60 on them the first time they played them, or Mahomes, or Lamar, like, I don't think they would have won the Super Bowl because their defense was marginalized. I think it's injuries more than anything. I don't think you can survive losing that many people and keep going. But that's the reason why I had so much confidence by the end of the week that I didn't know whether we were going to score enough to win, but I knew we were going to score because their defense is too beat up. They can't get enough pressure without blitzing. Once Amik Robertson went out, I went, oh my God, like that was the last person they could have possibly have lost and felt good about. I walked in thinking we're going to score 30. The question is, is it enough? That was the only question to me. Was it enough? And if we ended up I don't think we wanted to be in a track meet, but because I'm not sure that we thought we could score fast enough to keep up with them. But if we had managed the game just a little bit, got a couple of turnovers, had some long drives, shortened it a little bit, 30 to 35 points felt totally reasonable on our end to me. And then it would come down to, is it enough? Did they not score fast enough to keep up with that? Did they turn the ball over and we didn't? And in the end, like, I didn't see us getting 45, but after all the turnovers, I'm not surprised. And, I feel bad for Detroit because I know they thought it was their year. But if they were ignoring a glaring weakened defense for 5 weeks, they had statistically the worst defense in the NFL the last month of the season. They were completely blind to it. And so I was like, to all my Detroit friends, I'm like, guys, like, I don't know how you didn't see this. Like, there's just no chance that you guys were going to score 50 every week and win the Super Bowl. That just wasn't going to happen.
This also parlays into, you can tell me that Jaden is a rookie, but I can tell right away if you've watched him or not. And They did the same exact thing that Tampa people did, was like, oh, he's a rookie. How good can he be? Well, guys, he's the best rookie of all time. And that's not hyperbole. He's orchestrated one of the best turnarounds, if not the best turnaround in all of sports. Pair it with that defense, it was a disaster waiting to happen. I'm like you, though. They needed a couple things to happen, like get some turnovers, get a pick six, basically let Jared Goff make the mistakes that we know that he's prone to and take advantage of them. And they did exactly that. This
is a recurring theme, and I don't blame a lot of the fan bases out there to not know what's going on here. And they just see the scores and they just see the highlights. Yeah. They think the games are close. they agree Jaden must be really good, but they didn't watch the whole thing. Why would they have the whole time?
Sure.
Because we're not supposed, in their world, we're not supposed to be here right now. It doesn't make any sense. It's too soon.
We're just a nice story.
Yeah, it's a nice story. Washington hasn't played many premier night game solo games. They did down the stretch with Atlanta. They did with Tampa. I think that's the part about this that's kind of surprised me to this point. It's not a secret anymore. It's an open secret. But the Detroit fan base, you could tell by their overconfidence a week ago, they're like, we're coming off a bye. That's a really nice story. They're us 2-3 years ago. They're going to be a problem down the road, but they're not tonight. And the whole time I'm sitting there going, it just means you haven't watched us really play. That these endings aren't accidents. They're not all Hail Marys. Like, this team has poise, executes, thorough execution. If you haven't watched it throughout the year, you wouldn't know. And that they're not winning this way because they're lucky. They're winning this way for a variety of reasons that ought to scare the bejesus out of you. And it doesn't. It didn't happen with Tampa. It didn't happen with Detroit. And I guess, because Tampa smoked us in week 1, didn't pay attention to us the rest of the year. Detroit didn't pay attention to it and were blinded by this is our year, this is our year, this is our year. No one can touch us. Look what happens when that happens. This one that we're going to face this week, this is amazing. We've played them twice. I'm having Nagandi on later this week. I was texting with him right after the game. And he texted me back. He's like, oh, now you want to talk to me? Because I didn't have him on earlier this year. He's obviously a huge Philly fan. He follows the Eagles and everything. And I said, I just wrote to him, I go, do you have no idea how badly I wanted to ask you to come on my show after you guys blew a game where we gave you 5 turnovers? And the first thing out of his mouth were the excuses. And I went, oh, my God. You guys think we're a joke, too. Yeah. You've played us twice, lost to us, and you think we're a joke. You're going to get what's coming to you, too, if you're not careful. But I would think they've played us twice and no, but I don't know that their fans do. If that's how Nagandi watches every play that they run, if that's what he thinks, all right, if that's what he thinks, they're going to come in. They're going to come into this overconfident again, thinking that the last time was an aberration. Unbelievable.
We need to rewind the tape after that game because remember, we didn't even lead off with the win. It was the excuses that were spit out right away. It was, like Jalen got hurt, pass interference call, all of it. And all I remember you and I both going, we turned the ball over 5 times and still came out with a victory. Like, there's something to that. You can tell me the other pieces of that, like the injuries or whatever, but we turned the ball over 5 times, guys. Yeah. Pickett actually was moving the ball too. People don't want to admit that he was actually moving it. I don't know. Like, I guess I'm not surprised that they defaulted right back to that at this point.
They put in their brain that was an aberration because the quarterback was hurt or there was some phantom false start that didn't happen. Like they can't. It's this has just happened so fast that nobody can believe it. That's all.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Neither can we.
But neither could we for a long time. Neither could I. This started as disbelief for me too. Total. You could hear it in my voice when I call the games. It was total disbelief. It turned into then falling in love because it was like, oh my God, like this is real and this is incredible. To sheer joy for everybody, and I think it's why the pitch in my voice is the way it is. We just haven't seen anything like this. But I've been around this too long. I know it when I see it. I said it early. This is a special team. I said, go at the trade deadline. Help them win. Like all these veterans showed up here. They've got it. I don't know what it is, but they've got it. It's not just this quarterback. They have it. Collectively as a group, they have it. They can win. I saw it early, which is why I was people were making fun of me. I'm sitting there going, go get somebody at the trade deadline to help them. They actually have a real shot with this team right now. This quarterback is too good. But the rest of the world outside was, especially not around here, who were still probably in disbelief, were going, that's a great story because this never happens. It's the greatest turnaround in the history of the NFL and probably one of them in the history of sports. If they win the Super Bowl, or they just get to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, it will go down as the greatest turnaround in the history of the NFL, bare minimum, and maybe American professional sports. It's that unbelievable that we're at this point. that there's still people that are going, that's a nice story, but come on, it's got to end this week against the juggernaut who's been there, done that. You haven't been watching this. And I'm, it's Monday. So I really need to watch the Eagles a little bit more. I obviously watched them yesterday, but on TV. I need to watch them on film. I know what I remember about the last game because it feels like, a million years ago now. But it's hard not to be confident. I was by Friday going to Detroit. I looked at that one as the test. Can we score enough to beat a historically great offense? Can we get them to mess up enough to give us a chance to win? And we did. And that's where, I want to give credit to the coaches. The reason why I believed by the end of the week, because I'm sitting there going, even though I kind of know that their defense is their worst enemy and that they're not going to be able to sustain it for 3 games to win the Super Bowl, especially if they play the Bills, who killed them like 3-4 weeks earlier, just killed them on their field. They could have scored 60 points on them. I'm like, they're not going to make it. But we have a short week off a road game. We were all trash on Monday and Tuesday because everybody was so tired after the first one. I don't know when they're going to be satisfied. They have never exhibited that trait whatsoever of satisfaction with, isn't this great what we did? No, they still feel like there's more. It was business-like the entire week, but still it was a tough turnaround. It was the test. They're going into their building. They're off a bye. These guys make up 18 different trick plays. They tried them all in the game. One of them bit them in the butt. I can't believe they ran that one with Jameson Williams when they were losing in the third quarter. But you got some hubris to do something like that. Like, you're losing to a team that's already got 30-plus points on you, and you're throwing a pass with a wide receiver? Are you out of your minds?
That was the absolute turning point of the game. Like, there were haymakers being thrown by both sides, and the Commanders were punching back a little bit more. And when they decided to do that, I told you this last week, that Ben Johnson was going to do something stupid to try to prove that he was smarter than everyone else on the field. And he did just that. And not only did he just do it, no one got in Jameson Williams' ear to say, hey, if it's not there, don't throw it. That's the number one rule on that play. You and I know that by just watching these games. And the fact that they ran that and that he threw it, unbelievable, honestly. But we called it, or I called it at the bare minimum. I knew Ben Johnson was going to outsmart himself at one point. And I'm just not surprised that it did happen, I guess.
You're in a special season when you get foreshadowing from people constantly. And what happened a week before? Washington goes for 5 fourth downs, converts 3 of them. And Quinn kept talking about, we're bold but not reckless. I would take one of them. I would say the one, it didn't matter because they won. But the one in the fourth quarter where they actually went for the 4th and goal after they were going backwards from the 1st and goal, and they were down, 17-13 at that time. And I'm like, you know what? Take the points here. I trust the offense to get them back down in scoring position, but they didn't, and it failed. And then by the grace of God, Bobby Wagner gets a fumble that, was just a missed exchange. And all of a sudden we're up and we're leading again. And so all's well that ends well. But he said this, bold but not reckless. And I remember thinking by the middle of last week, I believe us. We're not going to do reckless things, but they will. They're the team that will do it. They've done it over and over and over and over. Most of the time it's at the end of a game, or it's some 4th and 8 at the 35, and you're like, what are you guys thinking? It's a low leverage play. I understand your confidence in your guys, but you didn't invent football. And every single time they do something like this, they get in their own way. That play call was preposterous. And I'm with you on that. This Ben Johnson guy was probably wound up the whole week. He had the week off. He wanted to show these guys why he didn't take their job. Yep. I'm going to show you. And a number of their trick plays worked. The one with the shuffle pass from Montgomery to Amon-Ra was outstanding. The end around with Williams, that was poor defense on our part. That wasn't even really a trick play. That was poor defense on our part, especially with Teddy Bridgewater out there. That was really poor defense on that one. But that call at that point in the game was everything about what they're about. They are bold and reckless. That is a crazy play to call. You call that early when it's 0-0 because you're trying to take a shot and you know that we're nervous and the place is loud and we're going to catch you and get a lead on you. I get it. I would be like, fine. But to do it at that point, this is why you guys lose games like this. You do things like that.
You run those plays to dagger the other team when you're ahead, not when you're behind. And when they screw up, it's the reverse dagger. You're falling on the sword. And that's exactly what happened. And I just knew it. Like, from everything we've heard about this Ben Johnson dude, he's very arrogant. I get it. His offense is amazing. Like, look at what they're doing. Look at those skill position players. But God, was I just not surprised that he wanted to smell himself on one of these trick plays. I just really cannot believe they did it at that point in the game. Like, this is what's also becoming very, very apparent with our team here. They do not make the major mistake. Like, they just will not make it. They don't put themselves in that position. If they need to be bold, they probably will. But that time has not come yet, and they have not even had to do it.
Yeah, the closest thing we had to it was the early fourth down where Mariota came in, and it was a busted play.
Yes,
because I think B-Rob thought it was a sneak. It clearly was not. Like, Mariota was turning to pitch the ball, I think, to Jaden. So, like, that was the one where we tried something that was a little out of sorts. And you'll recall the week before, Mariota came in, ran a sneak, then tried to get them to, like, jump. And so they showed them the same look, and we're going to run a variation off of it. And clearly the communication was off. So, but it happened early. It happened early when it happened. It wasn't 38-28 when that happened, where you go, what are you thinking? Just do the best things you can do and execute. And this is them. Like, it's another reason why in the big moments, it's hard to trust a team that does that, because they can't get out of their own way sometimes. So in a lot of ways, I feel for them, because I know their fan base has wanted this so bad. And this is the toughest types of losses, when you think it's your time and it's not. And it's probably hard to swallow for them today, because nobody there believed for a second that they were going to lose that game. Like, there was nobody there. You could just see. If I tell you how that crowd acted, it's fun, just like when we got there, their fans were fine. But, like, I could just tell by their attitude when we were on the field. But when you hear from the people who are mouthy from there, like, they were so uber overconfident. All that filters down is what's been said all week coming into it. Like, oh, that Jaden Daniels, boy, he's going to be a problem in a couple of years. Or, like, watch out, man. That's a pretty good start. That's us from a couple of years ago. They're going to be a problem in 2 years, instead of they're a problem right now, guy. Like, have you not been paying attention? And your team, Captain Crazy over there, I don't know what he's going to do. If you all aren't flooding the phone lines with, you know what, maybe it's time for a little bit of change here, because we've got this dynamo offense that I appreciate that we've built, but every once in a while, he's jamming the gun with bullets that don't come out of the holster. Like, what are you doing?
I know people that actually went to the game, and what both of them told me was, dude, you are not going to believe how confident they are in Jared Goff. Like, that was their whole thing, that he's the guy, sort of the best quarterbacks in the league. And I think you and I both said it last week. If we're taking a quarterback matchup, we're taking our guy 10 times out of 10.
10 out of 10.
We're not taking that guy. And this is what happens when you get that tunnel vision, when you've only been paying attention to your team. Yes, Jared Goff is great in this offense, but what happened? Push comes to shove in a game that matters, that they needed him to be really good in. He turned the ball over a crap ton of times. Like, this is exactly what you signed up for. Now you need to live with this for a whole entire offseason again.
This is, and Quinn's got this too, and I love this. This is a Joe Gibbs thing. Joe Gibbs preached, you respect your opponent. I don't care who they are. They can beat you. You can be humbled fast in this league by anybody. The margin for error with the good teams, and we're one of them now, is so slim. It is so slim. Mark Andrews dropped a 2-point conversion last night. Otherwise, Baltimore might be in the AFC Championship. That's how close the margins are. Like, that's how close it is. And speaking of Quinn, I want to, and that's another thing on Goff. When I saw these numbers of how Quinn had performed against Goff-led teams, I went, uh-oh, he's got this guy's number. He's had it in the past. Atlanta, in the playoffs when he was the head coach, beat a higher-seeded LA team with Jared Goff and the number one offense in the league that year. The last 2 years when he was the defensive coordinator in Dallas, the Lions, 0-2, Goff, 1 touchdown, 6 turnovers. He's got this guy's number. So on Friday, I teased it because I didn't want to say what he said to me. But I met with him. I meet with him on Fridays before the games. He gives me time for the purpose of the broadcast. And he told me what they were going to do on defense and why they thought it would work against this team. And his line to me was, and this is what got me completely jacked up and ready to go, was he goes, we're not going to let them play the way they want to. He was acknowledging they may beat us anyway because we have full respect for what they are and what they do, but we're not going to make it comfortable for them. We're going to do things our way. They're going to have to convert to us. And guess what? That guy threw us the ball 4 times. One of them, end of the game, doesn't really matter.
Yep.
One of them was a ridiculous call that they made that they should have never made. One was an incredible play by Sandra Still at the end of the first half. That was unbelievable. He turned into a wide receiver on that play. And the other was exactly what Quinn was said. He's going to fool him. He's going to get him to make a bad decision. He's going to sail one. He's going to get happy feet, and we got one. So the Quan Martin one was all DQ, unsettling this guy and unraveling him. The Mikey one at the end of the half was incredible. He flashed in front of that. We haven't seen a corner do that in a long time. That was incredible.
That was a Steve Buckhand's dagger, that one. Like, that's where it was, okay, we've taken away a legitimate possession and we're about to get the ball back. Like, that's where the Kinder was starting to flame up, where essentially that game was starting to get away from them. And I mean, for Mikey to get all those picks, it was just, I don't know, it was chef's kiss, like going back to Michigan and doing that. And it's also, once again, why Adam Peters, this first draft class, he nailed it. He's nailed it. And this is what this team has been missing. Any kind of contribution from any of their draft picks. And it's literally been a turnaround 1 year in.
You know, it's this has happened in the past on a number of teams, and it won't happen this year, but they could get both rookies of the year. I think, again, I don't think this team was paid attention to enough, but this guy's gotten better and better and better and better and better as the season progressed. I think it's probably going to end up going to Jared Verse. I think Philadelphia's corner, Quinyon Mitchell, could get it too if they really wanted to give it to somebody. But Mikey's been outrageously good. Like, they have 2 studs. We were wondering who are the corners. Oh, they got them now. Between Lattimore and Sandra Still and probably a pickup in the offseason as well, or another young draft pick, something like that. They got them now. Underrated. I'm going to talk a lot more about this later in the week. That was Lattimore's best game by a mile. By a mile. And he's getting his sea legs under him all of the sudden. So that whole who's going to cover A.J. Brown situation this week, well, that looks and feels really, really different this week too. Sandra Still was outrageous. He's gotten better and better and better. He's not even playing the position they intended him to play. And that interception, Quan's interception was sick. They had a pick 6 and he's navigating through. It wasn't even like he, broke on an out route and just had an easy path. And he navigated his way to the end zone. That was surreal. The Sandra Still interception at the end of the first half, though, might have been my favorite play by any particular player because he came out of nowhere. Goff was seeing ghosts on that one. That was incredible. Incredible.
I think this week, I think some of the Commanders players were hearing the noise because we talk about Lattimore, and I saw a clip of on social media on the Commanders side of things where it was one of those ones where they were going to each player and they said something, it would go to the next player really fast. But Lattimore's caught me. Lattimore looks at the camera and goes, y'all wanted me to make a play. What happened out there today?
That's right.
Just acknowledging that. And we haven't even talked about him. You flip around to B-Rob. We talked about him all last week. How do they even want to run him? Because we don't know what he's doing in this offense at this point. Well, all he did in the first half was redeem himself by ripping off these just like bone-crushing runs. And all of a sudden it looked like he had his confidence back. I think you could tell some of these players had heard some of the noise about them not contributing in the way that everyone thought they would. And those were the 2 that I point out to most, that we were talking about them quite a bit, that they needed to have big games, and they both did.
Quinn really convinced me on Friday that they were going to have a solid plan coming in to try to limit this offense with full respect for what they are, what they do, and knowing they were going to have to score 30 points to win, even if they were successful doing it. Like, they knew it. They weren't shutting this team out. There was full respect for what they were doing. With the run game, that was the other part I was very positive about. I'm like, here's the deal. Like, our run game, scripted run game, not Jaden, was a mess right now for a lot of reasons. I don't think B-Rob was seeing it very well the last few weeks. I think Eckler coming back kind of salvaged that for the last few weeks. I know there are people chirping like, let's give Chris Rodriguez a chance. And I'm like, you know what? Like, who are you deactivating then for that to happen? So they have what they have. They need their guys to step up. But Detroit's defensive front had been gutted by injury. You can run the ball on them. They're bringing pressure on every play because they can't win with their front four. So it was logical to me, too, that there would be a run game revival here. And it was in Washington's best interest to have it anyway. The more clock you run off, the more Jahmyr Gibbs is standing on the sideline, and the better chance you have to try to keep and maintain a lead. I'm happy for Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin made an all-time play. He turned a wide receiver screen into a 59-yard touchdown that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. So if nothing else happens from here, and I don't think we're done, if nothing else happens from here, if there was ever somebody who deserved to have a one shining moment in the playoffs, it's this guy.
Well, I mean, he not only did that, he did catch a 4th down touchdown last week too. Like,
right.
he's been nails. He's been exactly who we know he's been since, 2019 essentially. But that play was great. The play design was also great as well. That was fantastic. That was when Cliff was in his bag for that play too, because the wide receivers
and Brown on the outside blocking
were, yeah. That was awesome.
I said this from the get-go. I go, they're going to like these receivers if they're not explosive down the field, but they're physical and they block on the outside for the running backs and the receivers. And there it was.
There was one play too that I want to point out with Terry where they did a designed like play action to the left and he bootlegged it to the right, and Terry was the option. And you see Jaden just point, and without even thinking, Terry just nails the DB. And Jaden, I think, was like 1 yard short. But that was one too where like, this guy's so unselfish and he can do whatever you ask him to do. And he did not hesitate to go block in front for Jaden too.
He's got a gear too. This is the second time we've seen it. He did it against in that Dallas game where they missed the extra point at the end of the game. And then this one, he hit a gear that I'm not even sure he knew he had. Yep. It's happened now twice this year. De'Ami Brown continues to be a primary target. The other play of the game, honestly, that throw to him was absurd.
So stupid.
It was right. This is why we have one of these guys now, which is, again, goes back to your point. Detroit, like, I like Jared Goff. He's really good. He ain't him.
Right.
He's not him. He executes a really good offense. Our guy does miracle worker things. We have a Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. Pick the one you like. We have one of those guys now. You don't. Jared Goff's an outstanding player. It's going to be interesting when Ben leaves, who runs that offense, because all those guys are actually young. Like Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, they're all like 25 and under.
Yep.
Their offensive line has a good, because they're older now, but a good 2-3 year run probably in them anyway. So they're going to run it back with a different offensive coordinator. It's not like this was it for them. Like, they've got all those guys back. But it's going to be a different offensive coordinator, so let's see. That may be good, actually, for them. Maybe they'll take less ridiculous chances with each other. I don't know.
I mean, maybe, but at the same time, like, I've said this in preseason. It wasn't supposed to be this year, but that Lions team has to fear a team like this one because they now have a stud quarterback. You can't just get by with Goff. Like, it's a difficult conversation you've got to have today because a better quarterback puts them over the edge so much more, but now you're going to run it back one more time with him. Like, that's the best part about where we're at. We don't have any questions on that. They have to answer that.
Yeah. And the last one's this. And because we're close to it and because I'm very close to it, I started saying 7-8 weeks ago, this guy's the MVP. Like, I know he doesn't have the stats to show it, but if the world saw what he was doing, what we're seeing every week, you'd agree. He could be. He's clearly the rookie of the year. He just broke the record for most yards in a single season by a rookie quarterback. He's broken rush yards, qualified passing completion percentage, most yards. I believe I got to remember how many touchdowns did he have, because he needed 3 to match like most touchdowns by a rookie ever. He matched Ben Roethlisberger for the most wins by any rookie in their first season. And he can do something that none of them have done also this week, which is he would become the first rookie ever to start in the Super Bowl. That's never happened before. There's been a number of rookies that got to championship games but did not reach the Super Bowl. So he could already etch something, regardless of the outcome, if they do beat Philadelphia this week, to be the first rookie starting quarterback in Super Bowl history. And if he wins it, obviously, he will have changed the definition of what a rookie quarterback, a standard of a great rookie quarterback is. I think he's been the MVP this year, let alone the best rookie this year. They've punted once and turned the ball over no times in 2 road playoff games against teams that they were going to have to score a lot of points against because they're top 5 offenses. This is a team that doesn't have a tremendous amount of explosive players. He is literally sensational. We have never had anything like this in our history, short of maybe Sonny Jurgensen and I guess this is really Sammy Baugh. Sammy Baugh actually won a championship as a rookie. So you have to kind of go back to that level of history and actually, because Sammy Baugh rewrote the record books for what a rookie quarterback and what a quarterback was actually in the NFL. They didn't pass then, and he did. His passing stats were outrageous compared to the rest of the league. Jaden's numbers aren't going to be like that, like historically comparative, but for our purposes, he has changed the dynamic of the quarterback position in this town for the first time since the 1940s.
No, I mean, it's literally unbelievable. Like, I'm sure you got a bunch of the same text that I did on Sunday morning of, is this real life? Like, what is happening? Like, it's because of this guy that people are questioning literal reality here in the DMV, because he is that good. It's not. And here's the other thing, too, that I love about the past 2 weeks. They won that Bucs game like they did the previous 5 weeks. Last play of the game, cardiac commanders, clutch commanders, as you called them. You know what they did on Saturday night? They throttled the Lions in the second half. They went up by 15 or 14 points, whatever it was, in the fourth quarter, and there wasn't enough time left. There was, like, this is what impressed me the most. They not only played really well against the number 1 seed, they played so well that it wasn't close in the fourth quarter with 7 minutes left in the game. I mean, I don't know what else this guy has to show to the world that he's the best rookie of all time. And I don't really care anymore. I just know that we've got the guy, and I don't care whether you believe in him or not. You
don't have to acknowledge it to confirm what I know.
Right. And, like, that's where I've landed now. Like, even going into yesterday's Eagles-Rams game, I'm taking on the mantra of the team. I don't care who we play. You got to go through us. You know, who was the best quote in 2019 when the Nats won? Steven Strasburg said it best. Sometimes you're the buzzsaw. And this one, it has that feeling. This team, I don't care who they play. That's where I've landed at this point.
Yeah, this was, I mean, historic, amazing. And I can't wait for Sunday. I didn't really care who won. I just, part of me with Philly was, I know how their fans are. And I just win or, because this is World War III now. And, win or loss, I just hope that there's some, it's football, guys. Like, let's all enjoy each other's presence on some level. But it's the biggest game in the rivalry's history, not close, obviously. And so this is going to be incredible. And literally incredible.
To just finish, like, we're going to talk about it all week, but like for, if you're jumping on the bandwagon, that's great. But for people like you and me and everyone in this town that have been watching this team for the last 4 or 5 years, these two hate each other. Like, I would argue these two are the bigger rivals than anyone else in the NFC East, because we have the B-Rob primetime game. We've had games where we've had their number, where they've daggered us. These have been ones where we've thrown haymakers before this regime even got here, and it comes to a conclusion on Sunday.
It does. All right, let me take a quick break. Brave Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. You sign up for something, forget about it after the trial period ends, then you're charged month after month after month. The subscriptions are there, but you're not using them. In fact, I just learned that 85% of people have at least one paid subscription going unused each month. Thanks to Rocket Money, I can see all my subscriptions in one place and cancel the ones I'm not using anymore. And now I'm saving more money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/gameon today. That's rocketmoney.com/gameon. rocketmoney.com/gameon.
Head to Whole Foods Market to jumpstart your January during our New Year boosting event with savings on feel-good favorites store-wide. Save on organic picks, wellness staples, and more all month long.
The NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's $300 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
All right, welcome back. Let's talk about the Eagles for a moment. They hang on in the snow to beat the Rams. Matthew Stafford hangs on to the ball way too long, just in general, way too long. And I guess he hinted he might retire, which I never believe from players who clearly can still play, but I guess he hinted that. I think in general here, again, the Philadelphia passing game there's a lot left to be desired with that right now. Saquon is really, really saving the day for them. He continues what is an MVP caliber year. I know he like Jaden's not going to get it, but he very easily could and probably will get Offensive Player of the Year. He again was amazing and was their offense really yesterday. And he's going to be the problem, obviously, this weekend. We haven't stopped him yet. So, and he's chugging along. He's been through two, and the first one was a violent playoff game with Green Bay. The Rams were a classic. If that game was in LA, first of all, it would have been all Eagles fans. But if that game was in LA, I would have given them half a shot. But in the snow with a young defense, and they gave up a couple of big chunk plays along the way, including that devastating run by Barkley in the fourth quarter. This sounds about right. That the team that's kind of been there, done that recently against a young up-and-coming team with a good quarterback, that this will be the outcome. I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised. I remain with you, though. This passing offense is unimpressive. And the fact that they couldn't pull away from the Rams, and I get the weather was messy, too. I do put a little bit of credence there. This Eagles team has been doing this all year, though. They've been hanging with everybody. It doesn't matter who it's been. They don't pull away from the bad teams a lot of the times, too. So to me, once again, that phrase comes in, striking distance. It feels like they can, as long as they keep Barkley to a minimum. He's going to get his on Sunday, but if they can keep it to a minimum, I like their chances.
The story this week will be this. Is Jalen Hurts hurt? He finished the game against the Rams. He was moving a little bit. They didn't do a tush push on the 1 yard line. And they were, and I think wisely speculating, we know why. Yep. He did move a little bit. Let's see what happens here. I can already hear the excuses being built in Philadelphia either way because of it. But it's going to be a massive storyline. And until we know Wednesday or Thursday whether he's practicing or not, I won't speculate. I will tell you, there is no chance on earth he's 100% for this game. That's what's completely obvious. And if he's not running the ball early, well, that's going to change things for Dan Quinn and Joe Witt to think about how they want to defend them.
No, absolutely. He doesn't look right, period. And I don't know what it is, but he just does not look like he's comfortable right now. As we mentioned, that pass offense is leaving a lot to be desired with those wide receivers. There's no excuse of why that pass offense shouldn't be rolling a little bit more. Luckily, they have the safety valve of all safety valves with Saquon. I mean, that's what it all comes down to.
The Chiefs win again. Just the margin for error with them is obviously very, very, very slim. They just execute when they have to. and they've just kind of been there, done that. If that game the other day felt like they were going through the motions a little bit, like it was almost like they kind of knew that they were going to win this game, and that's kind of felt them this year to me a little bit. Maybe that's kind of, they need the spark of, do you want to be great again? And they're sitting there going, we got this, because the whole year's been unusual where they don't really blow anybody out. You know they're capable of it, who their quarterback is. You know they're capable of it. Their defense has kind of led them along the way here. But when push comes to shove, they've lost once in a game where they played their guys the whole year. So, do they feel vulnerable to me? I guess, but like by only a few teams, they're playing one of them this week, but by only a few teams, I think that it feels a little bit like they are complacent in the knowledge that they know they're better than everybody else, but they don't go out there with the killer mentality anymore. Still, in the end, the margin for error is slim because that is the reality with them. It's very difficult to beat them, even if they're not a dynamic juggernaut like they used to be.
I think this boils down to a little bit what the Commanders have been doing. I think they don't want to screw up. They know that this defense is so good, and I think they're relying on it. I said this, like the first month of the season, their defense is what impresses me the most this season. And I think Andy Reid's not a dumb coach. I think he's going out there telling Mahomes, hey, don't do any of this crazy stuff right now because you're going to lose us a game. And you probably don't have to tell Mahomes that twice or even tell him at all. But I feel like they've been in lockstep of how they're going to win these games. It's just play the offense. Don't make these crazy plays. Like, have we seen the crazy Kansas City trick plays this year, really?
No.
Not nearly as much, right? So I think
we haven't seen the classic him running around in circles looking for somebody and throws this magic dime. We haven't seen a lot of that this year.
No, so that's what I'm saying. I think there's a belief there in Kansas City of just show up, execute, don't do this crazy stuff, and we're going to walk out of here with a win because of that defense. I think it's truly like what they are aiming for this season.
And then the last one is, God, sorry, Baltimore. Mark Andrews drops a game-time 2-point conversion. My immediate text to my Ravens friends were, just tell yourself there was too much time on the clock anyway, because there was a minute and a half left for Josh Allen to go down the field and set them up for a game-winning field goal, which is the logical conclusion anyway at that point. Still, considering how they've lost their playoff games, which is mainly either they decided they didn't want to run the ball anymore or ghastly turnovers, which they had last night again. These guys are not clutch in the postseason. They have teams that can win, but they beat themselves. And I think that's the hard part, I think, for them. It's one thing to go you lose to Kansas City, or, man, we went toe-to-toe with Buffalo and we lost. But the reality is it was their mistakes why the game was as close as it was anyway. There was a reason why they were favored up there. Vegas thinks they're a better team. And it was their mistakes early specifically, and then this drop late as to why they lost. That's the hard ones to swallow when you feel like you beat yourself again.
This is one where, like, I feel for Ravens fans because you had it all set up again. You had Derrick Henry. For some reason, you did stop running the ball. You had 3 turnovers. Look at the total yardage. Baltimore had over 400 total yards. I think Buffalo had under 300.
Yeah.
Like, all the statistics point to Baltimore should have won this game, and they were still a 2-point conversion away. They are the better team, but Buffalo, not unlike we just talked about with Kansas City, not unlike what we talked about here with Washington, they made less mistakes, they took advantage, and they got the win. This is what these playoffs have come down to. Don't screw up. Let the other team screw up, and you're going to walk out of there with a win.
The magic part of this Commanders run, too, is they're going to have the hardest road they could possibly have. They will, in the NFC playoffs, play the highest possible seed they could, all on the road, if they were to get to the Super Bowl. And then once they get there, it is very possible they'll play the 1 seed from the other side, too. So they won't even be given like a lucky path along the way. They'll have played the toughest opponent they could have the whole time on the road. And we'll see. And then, like, the synergy of the possibility, considering we were talking about 1991 all the time, of Commanders Bills is wild.
I mean, it's nuts either way. I don't want to look past the Eagles, but like every single scenario left is actually bonkers. Like You're going to play a team for the third time that you've been thrown haymakers with over the last 5 years. If you somehow get through that, waiting on the other side is the opponent that still hasn't won a Super Bowl from the last time you played them in the Super Bowl, or widely regarded the greatest quarterback almost of all time. He just needs a couple more championships. The storylines waiting for them literally from here on out are just ridiculous.
It is. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram Buster Show is at 6:30 in Sports Capital.
Oh, it's such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Go to Blinds.com for 40% off site-wide. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Build a routine with Ollie that supports your wellness needs, like getting your daily vitamins and minerals with Ollie's multi-gummies, or keeping your mood upbeat with all the vitamin D in Hello Happy. Give your gut health some support with probiotics, and wake up feeling refreshed after taking Ollie Sleep. Do wellness on your terms. Find Ollie at a Walmart or Target near you or at ollie.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
All right, welcome back. Couple quick things. Ben Johnson already said he's out in Detroit. So he's decided now, preemptively, I'm not going to take a head coaching job. That's really amazing. Last year, I don't want a head coaching job. This year, I will preemptively take it, which means he's getting one, which means he's probably getting the Raiders job, which means we're probably, our first loss of this group that we have appears to be Lance Newmark, who's the assistant GM, worked with Ben Johnson for a long time in Detroit, and seems to be the front runner to be the general manager, if that's what the package deal looks like. So that's the possibility here. It looks like it's heading that way. I do think it's odd that Ben Johnson didn't want to come here when we had the #2 overall pick and could have probably taken Drake May. You want to think about how history would have been different. I think he would have convinced them to take Drake May if we were here, as opposed to Jaden Daniels. Thankfully, he didn't take the job. But the idea that he didn't want this one, but wants that one, I can't wait to hear him explain himself about that. That's going to be interesting.
This is one I just don't understand. I've said this ever since the rumors of Shador wanting to go to Vegas. Even last year with the rumors of Jaden wanting to go to Vegas. I don't understand the appeal of the organization, of why all of a sudden these people want to come to it. You and I have actually talked about for years, the front office is always in flux there. There's always people going in and out. I really don't understand this, and I'd love to hear his explanation too, especially with the jobs that he has now passed up. Have fun, Ben Johnson. Have fun.
Yeah. Last thing, and I thought this was really cool. I saw the Caps wearing the Commanders jerseys going into the Penguins game, and they beat them. Ovi wearing the Jaden jersey is amazing, because it does. There's a full-on passing of the torch of I'm the chosen one, now you're the chosen one type of feeling to seeing something like that. And then Wilson was wearing
Wagner.
He was wearing Wagner's. I thought that was perfect. It was just spot on perfect. I thought it was really cool. It just reminded me of this story that I've told before, but I want to tell it again. And it really just, I think it symbolizes how different everything is here now. When I was back here, before I went to ESPN, Ovi was there. And I was doing a show with Larry down there. And it was on, what was then Comcast Sports that turned into NBC Sports Washington, which is now Monumental Sports Network. But we had a show that we did there that was airing. So it was a Redskin show. And because it was airing on that network, every once in a while in the off season, of course, would bring up the Caps. And they were in the playoffs one year. And I showed up to the set wearing a Caps jersey, an Ovi jersey, in support of the Capitals. And this is now, years and years and years ago. One of the executives there told Larry to tell me never to do that again. This is a Redskins show. Don't wear a Capitals jersey. And when I saw the clips of the pictures of Ovi and Wilson, I went, this is the way it's supposed to be, where we all cheer for one another. We're all in the same boat together. It's cool if we all win. And the craziest part of that one was, it was the off season, and the show airs on the network that airs the Caps games.
Right.
And I'm like, we're just showing support. Like, I remember saying back to Larry when he said something to me, I go, are we not rooting for the Caps? Who are we rooting for here then? And they're like, no. It's just all Redskins no matter what. And I'm like, guys, it's May. Like, what harm does it do to go, let's go Caps on a show on this network that is airing the Caps games?
And not only that, it's not like you were having Locker on to break down the power play
No.
on the Redskins show. You're just wearing a jersey. It's like,
I wore a jersey on a Redskins show to show support for the Capitals, hoping they would win a series.
No, it's ridiculous. I'm with you. When I saw the Ovi picture, I was like a gasp, like, oh my, they actually are letting him do that. Because look, that works both ways too. Like, you and I both know that, like, Ted probably doesn't like that the Commanders are getting so much run so fast, but some of that stuff can actually be brought to the forefront because all those players are paying attention to the Commanders.
Yes.
I forget who it was. I'm trying to remember who it was.
Trust me, the Commanders, when Ovi gets close to that record, you're going to see clips from them going, wishing him, the best of luck to get it. So
And I'm trying to remember who it was after the game. I'm trying to think. Somebody, though, whoever got the post-game interview with Al Koken, they did their 1-minute interview and he just goes, go Commanders, and went into the locker room because the game was going on at the same time and they were flashing the score.
That's the way it should be.
Yes, exactly right.
We're all in the same boat. Remember when the Nats and the Caps were bros during their championship runs? That was fun. They were showing up to each other's games. That's the way it should be. So let's see what you guys wear next week for us for Philadelphia. Can't wait. All right, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Bram wants to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.